Welcome back to Flashpoint. Charlotte City Council getting ready to start their first full year of their new term. Many familiar faces, plus one new one on council. Council sworn Tijuana Brown as District 3's new council member. They also say goodbye to Mayor Pro Tem Braxton Winston. Leaders say they're going to focus on economic development and violence intervention programs in the new year. Also in the new year, City Council will oversee Charlotte's very first social district. It's expected to come to Plaza Midwood. Leaders voted in October to let folks walk around certain city blocks with an adult beverage in that designated area. Vote came more than 2 years after the governor signed social districts into law across the state, and more than a year since city leaders approved it. Meanwhile, it was a tough year for Charlotte area transit. On top of staffing issues, driver and passenger safety as well. A minor derailment of the light rail took center stage earlier this year. The incident actually happened back in 2022, but didn't get reported until this year. It led to extreme oversight of the agency and a new interim CEO. But by the end of the year, several city leaders telling us that the transit agency is largely back on track. Back in April, I asked Mayor Vi Lyles if the trouble with cats gave her any pause when it came to adding more rail lines here in the city. I started by asking her if cats had turned a corner.
I think transit is one of the major issues for us in our community because we provide services to people to get to work. And you know what that means. They can pay their rents. They can get to around the city and, be able to shop and all of that. So it's really important. And what I would say is that we are working through a system of change. And we are working in one direction, which is one to ensure that we have maintenance on our equipment, to ensure that our facilities are safe for people to be able to ride on. So I believe that we are headed in the right direction. We continue to focus on how do we build the best system for our people, but also how do we maintain that system so that it's something that's a foundation for us to grow in our mobility efforts.
You feel safe riding the Blue Line right now?
That's kind of a loaded question, Ben. I would feel very safe because people are riding it every day. When we look at what NCDOT sent as information for us to change and what we've done, we've immediately addressed those issues. So I would say that the question really is, are we maintaining the system for safe operations? Yes, we are. There's risk if I get in my car, much less on a bus or a rail line. But what I would say is that we are moving in the direction to take the corrections immediately, working on those initiatives that we have to do to ensure that kind of safety statement that we have to have.
Has this whole sort of scenario, has it changed your view on how the city should go about its $13 billion transit plan going into the future?
It certainly has given me pause to think about how do we ensure what we have works. I've always been a person in government when I worked here as well as being mayor now, is that we have to first make sure that the services that we provide are adequately addressed and funded and that they are delivering the services that our residents want. So what I would say to you is, yes, there's a pause here, but it's a pause that I believe once we do the investment, we should continue. There's no way in the world that we can have a bus system that just serves the amount of people that we're serving now. When we grow the size of Greensboro in the next 5 to 10 years, our residents are going to increase, and we have to plan ahead for what we're doing. There's a pause in that planning right now. And I think you've seen it. We've delayed the idea that we would do the search for the CEO. We are putting a pause, but continuing to look at our mobility plan and what's required of that. So we can't, I like to say that we have to do both. And we have to make sure first our investment in what we have is being maintained, but we also have to plan for the future. That's why we have a planning division as well as a maintenance division.
The mayor earlier this year. Meanwhile, a major breakthrough in the decades-old plan to build a commuter line connecting Charlotte to towns in the northern part of Mecklenburg County. A letter shows the city of Charlotte and Norfolk Southern are actively discussing plans to build the Red Line. It's a plan that has been in the works and we've been covering since the late 1990s. WCNC Charlotte's Jesse Pierre shares the developments.
This letter shows Norfolk Southern's willingness to work with the city of Charlotte. City leaders say it is not only a step forward in making the Red Line a reality, but also a step forward in the city's larger mobility plan.
It's a very important letter because it marks a breakthrough in an area where we had an insurmountable obstacle before.
Renewed hope for the Red Line. Norfolk Southern Railway Company says it is willing to engage the city of Charlotte in discussion regarding a possible transaction of the line. That's according to this newly released letter from July.
It is important to understand the fact that they are willing to talk to us and to work with us is a big step compared to where we were before.
The proposed Red Line would connect uptown Charlotte to the towns of Huntersville, Davidson, Cornelius, and Mooresville. For decades, these efforts have failed to move forward. Charlotte City Councilman Ed Driggs says Norfolk Southern getting on board is key to getting things back on track.
It's a very important component because the northern towns are very concerned about having that kind of connection. They were disappointed that the sales tax in 1998 was passed and the Red Line was not built because we couldn't come to terms with Norfolk Southern.
He adds as the region continues to grow, the Red Line could be essential to help move people around, provide folks an alternative mode of transportation, and take the burden off traffic.
We are working with Connect Beyond on a large-scale mobility plan that would include rail lines, roads, bike paths, sidewalks, greenways, and progress towards achieving that does depend on solving the Red Line.
Last month, the city of Charlotte approved $5 million for an update on work done on the design and engineering of the Red Line. However, Drake says the project would need a new revenue source moving forward.
The goal right now is to have on the ballot next November a request for public approval of a new sales tax that would be used to pay for a lot of these projects.
Jesse Pierre, WCNC Charlotte.
Next, when our Flashpoint year in review continues, the influence two North Carolina politicians had on our nation's capital.